Hey guys, what's up? Hope you're well. Yo, so this is a common question, an extremely common question that religious people pose to non-religious people. Is why would you be good without God? Without religion, what stops you from emulating a sociopath or something along those lines? Okay, this is one answer, and it was triggered by a brilliant post by a polyglot, someone who speaks multiple languages, called Benny Lewis. He talked about his travels and his life, and he's been traveling for 8 years, living in different countries, learning different languages. And he said, even though he's had amazing experiences, met different people, had a lot of coincidences happen in his life, he's a secular humanist, and he explains the reason why. He does it very with a lot of diplomacy, and I think it's a great post. I'll link it in the description box. And he gave a very simple answer to a question that the same question everyone gets asked, what I've just posed. And I thought the answer was so simple, and I was like, you know what? I never began a response to that question with that simple phrase. And it's the first component, or the first principle, why somebody who's secular would not go around stealing, raping, killing, etc. But it's so genius. It's simple, but it's genius. Empathy. That's the base reason why. Is empathy. Because you can imagine the suffering you would inflict on another human being. You've either experienced it or you can imagine it. Empathy. That's the first thing that stops you when you don't have religion, when you don't believe in God. That's what stops you from just going around and just harming people psychologically or physically for no reason. It's empathy. Second reason is like for like. Is believing that you can only, your limit of your response to another person's negativity towards you, negative behavior, is in accordance with what they're doing. So if if they've broken a business contract, you can only use legal means, such as through a lawyer, or through threatening them with legal action in order to get justice. Or if somebody's being verbally quite insulting towards you, you can only the limit of what you can do back is to be insulting back towards them verbally. If someone's threatening you physically, then what you can do is you can be physical with them because they're threatening you. Or if they are throwing punches at you, you can throw some right back. What I'm saying is basically whatever the person's negative behavior is, the limit of what you will do in response is like for like. Doesn't mean you have to take that road. If someone's being very loud and aggressive and insulting towards you, doesn't mean you have to be exactly that back. But that's the limit of what you can do. And I think a lot of people have that principle. I think a lot of people have that like for like, consciously or subconsciously. I think and that's a secular way how that would prevent you from being a bad person, is having that limit of like for like. The third one is thinking about the impact that your behavior would have on society. I think Immanuel Kant said it best, but I can't remember exactly what he said. But basically, just imagine if everybody did exactly what you did, what would society be like? So this requires, of course, for you to use your imagination and use reasoning to think, well, if everybody went around taking things because they wanted to, I would have no security. Nobody else would have any security. We wouldn't be able to build the things in our life that we need for survival or just for flourishing, because we couldn't be sure that the things we would have would be able to, we couldn't accumulate the things we want. They'd constantly be under threat. They'd constantly be taken from us. So I'm not going to go around stealing from people. And you can do the same with violence and whatever. You know, what would the society be like if everybody did exactly what you would going to do or contemplating doing? And that's another principle. It's a secular principle that you can use to guide ethical behavior. Number 4 is the law. I'll briefly self-disclose, but over the past year I've been screwed over by because thinking about this before I did the video, about 4 people who screwed me over in different areas of my life. over this past year, quite seriously screwed over. Like, quite seriously screwed over. I've had other people who told me, I don't know how you haven't done anything to these people, because I would have done something by now. Physically, they were talking about some people I know. But what stops me, what stopped me in a moment, not stops me now, but what stopped me when I was filled with rage was the law. To be quite frank, it was the law. It wasn't empathy. It wasn't like for like. It wasn't thinking what would the impact of my great actions have on greater society. In the moment when I filled with friggin' rage, it was the law. I was thinking, man, if I beat the living crap out of this person, it's going to harm my job prospects in the future, because at the least I'll get a caution, but I could even go to prison as well. So that prevents me from doing anything in the moment when I'm filled with rage. I think, well, if I throw this person through a window, I'm going to get in some serious trouble with the law. So I don't really want to do that. Which is great for preventing you from doing something you regret later on, and not just regret because of the consequences of the law, but you may regret simply to do with empathy, or to do with like for like, or believing that, you know, you want to set an example for your children, or you wouldn't like everyone in society to behave in the way that you were thinking about behaving. So yeah, so those are some secular reasons why you can be good without God, or can be good without religion. And you see, all those reasons, they just require imagination and reasoning. Use those together to apply to how you use empathy. How you apply that to empathy would be, you know, you imagine either using memory or just using you know, something from the media or your social environment. Imagine a time when you've felt you've suffered for whatever reason. Then imagine somebody else in exactly the same situation suffering as you, and that will create a sense of empathy. You know, it's a connection, it's a link that you can see. I've been through what you've been through. And it develops this connection to other human beings. Now, you know, there's different techniques for this. They call loving kindness meditation is a Buddhist one, and you know, different people, NLP and people like that, they modalities like that, they have different techniques for evoking a sense of compassion using imagination. Then you have the other ways of like for like, is using your imagination, using reasoning, you know, to think, well, they're doing this, so this is my limit of my behavior. I can only go to this level. Using the principle of what impact would your behavior have on greater society. You use imagination and reasoning. You imagine, well, if everyone in society did this, what would it be like? And use reasoning to think, well, is this reasonable? Is this action, is this justifiable? What I would like to do, on the principle of egalitarianism, or you know, the principle of just basic empathy. You know, is this okay? And you use it for the law, which is, of course, use your imagination. Think, if I grab his throat and I throw him down some stairs, I'm probably going to prison. You know, you can use imagination and reasoning, of course, to know what the law is. Yeah, this is classed as I think maybe attempted murder, so I'm not going to do that. You know, so yeah, so imagination and reason ultimately are two core principles that will prevent you, if you have any basic sense of empathy, to be good without God. So I hope any religious people watching, I hope you can see that as a secular person, someone who's a secular humanist, you can, or even if you're not, even if you're still a theist, but you don't adhere to a religion, that shows how you can still develop a foundation for ethical behavior in your personal life without the need to resort to religious guidance. Anyway, guys, take care.